Welcome to Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. Our show brings you closer to the heart of Texas A&M athletics through powerful stories of perseverance, purpose, and life-changing opportunities made possible by 12th Man Foundation donors. From student athletes and coaches to former students and dedicated staff, you'll hear firsthand how donor support shapes the lives of Aggie student athletes in competition and beyond. Whether you're a lifelong Aggie or simply curious about what makes Texas A&M so special, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's episode. Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of Answering the Call podcast, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. I am your host, Ivy Robinson, and today I'm joined in studio by the one and only Coach Jackie Sherrill. Coach, it's truly an honor to have you on the show today, and you're not only a legend at Texas A&M, but across college football, so thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Ivy, but people ask which place that you coached. I played at Alabama, coached at Arkansas, Iowa State, Pittsburgh, Washington State, Pittsburgh A&M, Mississippi State. So my answer has always been the players. It's not people talk about, did you like this town or that town, this university, that university? And it's the players in the locker room, that's their answer. Mm-hmm. And it's the players that I had the opportunity to coach.
I can only imagine how rewarding that has been to watch those players, all of those men you coached, now having successful careers and making their own impact on society. I'm sure that's so rewarding.
And a lot of them have made big impacts right here at Texas A&M. I've always told the players, I'm not your friend. I'm your coach. It's just like a parent. I'm not your friend. I'm your parent. But your players become your friends years later after you coach them.
At what point do you think that shift happens?
Sometimes it shifts right after they graduate. Sometimes after they, are in pro ball and they realize a lot of other things about life, and then they're very appreciative. And most of them, or most players that you have with any coach, is very appreciative that you made them do things they didn't want to do, but you help them accomplish things they didn't think they could.
Really quick, Coach, I want to come back to this, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I have some questions about how you're known as being a player's coach. But I want to go back really quick. Tell me, did you grow up in a family full of athletes or sports fans?
No. Well, we had a large family, 4 girls, 4 boys, but I was the baby, and I kind of grew up by myself. My mother and father separated when I was born. So I grew up as a mother's boy or a mommy's boy, however we want to say it. And like a lot of us, if it hadn't been for the playing field, whether it's baseball or track or basketball or football, we probably wouldn't had the success or be where a lot of the people are, or myself today.
That's actually, something I absolutely wanted to ask you about was, do you remember the moment when you received an opportunity to continue your football career in college? Do you remember where you were or how that felt?
I had the opportunity to be recruited by quite a few schools, playing at Biloxi High School, LSU, Tulane, Georgia Tech, Alabama, Mississippi State, and Mississippi. So you had quite a few schools that you had an opportunity to go visit and go play for. But I went to Alabama because of Coach Bryant. There's a lot of players that will tell you that they picked X school for this or that reason. And most of it, certainly back then, was strictly because of the coach, either the recruiting coach or the head coach. And I had the opportunity at Alabama, was playing in the Sugar Bowl. Coach Bryant came down to Biloxi to look at the facilities and spent like 2 hours with me. But he never asked me to come. And
Really?
I always thought that was different because all the other coaches certainly were asking. And that stuck with me because in my career, I never asked a player to come play. It has to be his decision. If it's his decision, then you're not going to change, and it's changed now with the NIL, and it's changed with a lot of things. However, back then, you were an adult. They were 17, 18-year-old kids. You could get that kid to say yes. And I've always told all my coaches, it's got to be the player's decision because you can get him to say yes, but it may not be his yes.
When you got through your career, your college football career, at what point were you drawn to actually coaching?
I majored in business and I'm finishing my master's. And I went from Alabama. I was a GA in 66, and I went to Arkansas to finish my master's as a GA in business. And Coach Majors got the head job at Iowa State, and I was fortunate enough to go with him. And I have no reason. I just walked in his office, said, I'd like to go with you. He said, what can you coach? And, I wasn't smart enough. I just said a coach is a coach. You can coach anything.
And obviously it turned out very well for you with the opportunity. You followed him and look where it led you.
And it, very quickly he moved me up the chain. Was the first year ended up being the linebacker coach. And the next year was, again, the linebacker coach. It started out as, back then we had what called B team. Is basically you got to play a freshman schedule and then was a linebacker the third year defensive coordinator and the fourth year defensive coordinator, assistant head coach. So I was able to move up very quickly. And then from there, we went to Pittsburgh and I was the defensive coordinator at Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. And from Pittsburgh, that's when you eventually came on to Texas A&M. So before coming to Aggieland, what made Texas A&M the right challenge and the right move for you at that point in your life, do you think?
Well, they recruited me. I was with Coach Bryant, East-West game. Matter of fact, it was his last game. He had just finished the regular season in the Liberty Bowl and retired. So he came to the East-West game, and Bo Schembechler was the coach on there. Gil Brandt with the Dallas Cowboys, he was asked by Bum Bright to find another coach. So there were two coaches that he suggested, and that was Bo and then myself. And Bo wasn't going to leave Michigan. So make a long story short, they offered. And the offer was the AD and head coach. So when I came, I didn't have to go look at the facilities because I had been coming to Texas A&M all the way back when Coach Stallings was here to learn how to stop the wishbone. So I didn't have a problem of seeing the facilities because I knew what they looked like. But the job was to be the head coach and the AD. So that was the biggest draw, to be both.
Mm-hmm. Who do you think were the mentors or influences that really shaped your coaching philosophy early in your career?
Well, I had opportunity to play and coach for Coach Bryant. Had the opportunity to coach for Frank Broyles and then Coach Majors, John Majors. All three of them are different. Coach Bryant is a man's man. And, he was big in stature, 6'4", but he was very caring, very tough now. I mean, we went through the Junction Boys at Alabama, so it wasn't easy. But he was very compassionate as well. Took care of the players. Coach Broyles, he was a businessman. He was, and all the things he did at Arkansas and was able to get accomplished was because how well he handled the business part of football. And then Coach Majors was probably the best PR guy in the business at that time. He could meet you 15, 20 years later, and he could tell you where he met you, what you talked about, what you were wearing.
Wow.
I mean, he was really, really good PR. And that's probably why we had such a great fit, because he kind of let me run the football side, the discipline, the equipment, all the other things, travel, and he did all the PR.
And so when you came to Texas A&M, though, would you say you took a blend of all of those influences and implemented it here?
You had an influence of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And you had three great mentors, three of the best or most successful in college football.
When you arrived in 82, what was the first thing you wanted to really instill in the culture and the mindset of Aggie football?
Honestly, when you're young and a young coach, you think you have all the answers. I was very successful, 59-1 at Pittsburgh. You were in the top 5 every year, certainly the top 8. You won quite a few bowl games and recruited from coast to coast. So recruiting was not a hard thing, or wasn't anything that you had to really learn. The thing that I didn't realize, and even today, and I've told all coaches, if you don't understand A&M and you do not participate and understand the traditions and use the power of the 12th, you're not going to win. You're not going to, and I didn't realize that. It took some time.
How long do you think it took?
It took 2 years, but I had some help from the students. The first spring I was here, I had a student that he was the head red pot, James Fuquay, that burst through my door, didn't say anything to the secretary, just threw the door open, walked over and pointed at me, and he said, "You want to be the head coach, or do you want to be another coach?" So I'm laughing inside, and I, certainly. Then he said, "Follow me." And he took me and put me in Elephant Walk. How many head coaches ever been in Elephant Walk? Then took me to Silver Taps. Then he took me to some other things. But the biggest thing is next fall, when the bonfire was being built, he invited me out. And so here I am, dress pants, white shirt, and all of a sudden on the 4th stack wiring logs. So that got me really involved, understanding quite a few of the traditions.
You were immersed in it, yeah.
Yes. And going backwards, the first one was first hired. I was walking on the grass outside of the student union, and a senior corps member with his boots walked up and said, "Coach, we don't walk on the grass." And so I got indoctrinated pretty quick, but the students put me in.
That's incredible. That thanks to that. What was his name again?
James Fuquay.
James Fuquay. I mean, I think that's hilarious. He just busted into your office and said, "You want to be the head coach, the coach at A&M? Follow
me." Or just
me.
Another coach.
It's good.
And it is. A&M is very unique. If you understand and use the power of the 12th man, you've got a great advantage.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's such good advice. This university we have, I mean, the 12th man and the student body and our supporters, the fans, it's just, the support is unparalleled. I mean, there's incredible support, the traditions here. And when athletic teams when they partner with that, when they really get the traditions and what this university stands for, I mean, great things happen. And that's what makes such an awesome game day environment too, like in Kyle Field.
Well, one of the loudest games ever, and it was when the stadium was not that big. Matter of fact, there was no south end. Played Texas and put a knot on their head, 42-10. Their quarterback could not hear, trying to check off. He couldn't check off because how loud it was.
Wow.
And that was without a south end.
Coach, I've read that a huge part of your coaching philosophy was implementing a strong belief. How did you go about convincing your players that they were champions before they had gotten to that success?
The second year, you certainly question yourself and, what the hell's going on? I'm the same person, but not the same results. There's got to be something missing. Then realized used to go out to West Texas after the Texas game. And so went to West Texas on the way back, wrote 38 pages and changed quite a bit of things. This is after the third year. And then after we beat TCU, they were going to the Cotton Bowl. We beat them here. And then we went to Austin and beat Texas in Austin. And so I wrote a book for the players, Making of a Champion. And so started every year. And then that's when I realized you have to give players more than X's and O's. Mm. And so we did that. And we did quite a few things in that.
Was the team required to read it and everything? And
not only read it, but they were required to actually do homework with it.
Really?
Yes.
And you saw
we started
such a great change after that.
I get former players now, I still have my book. You have to, and I told Coach Elko, I said, the players are learning how to win, but you throwing the chair at Notre Dame certainly helped them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he's given the players a message more than what a normal coach would understand, and that's good.
Speaking of Coach Elko, I'm curious, watching this season unfold and the great success that they've had, does it take you back to any moments, when you were first coaching here at Texas A&M or any big games?
Well, the team completely flipped. The last two games in 84 with in one player. There could be one player, one play that completely will flip your team. And that could go both ways. That could go, one play that you lost a game or a mistake or a call that you made offensively or defensively that lost the game. So the one player was Ray Childress. Ray never said a word. I mean, it'd be hard. The only thing Ray would ever say is coming to practice. He said, "Coach, I hate to practice." But you didn't want to be in front of him in practice. And he jumped up in the meeting and said, "I'm not letting TCU beat me." And he didn't. He was a one-man wrecking crew that day. And that gave the players the confidence that they could win. There's stages on learning how to win. And sometimes you can get to almost through the door closes, and then you have to somehow open the door again. But, one player, one play, and you can go back and look at the different plays, even, how one play made the difference of the players coming back to win the game.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit more about the success you had here at Texas A&M with 3 straight Southwest Conference titles in 85, 86, and 87. Which of those seasons do you think tested you the most as a coach, and why?
Well, I don't know if I did that. Players win, coaches don't. Your job of a coach is, I've always said 4 things: to prepare the players mentally, and that's knowing what to do. I mean, whatever defense you're playing, the offense that you're playing, or asking them to execute that plan, know what they're doing, know their opponent. 2 is physical. You have to make practice a lot harder than games. If it's not, and game is harder, then you're not going to win many games. The third thing is, the most important, is to put them in the right position. If we'd had the transfer portal in my career, there had been a lot of players that ended up being Hall of Famers that wouldn't have stayed, because you moved them in here. They're Richmond Webb, for example, was one that ended up. I have 3 Hall of Famers that I moved them either from offense to defense or defense to offense, that they had great careers, All-Americans, and ended up in the Hall of Fame in Pro Bowl. So, you have to put the players in the right position. Then the most important is get out of the way and let them play.
Mm-hmm. What do you remember most vividly about the victories over Auburn and Notre Dame?
Well, it's kind of funny side stories. Pat Dye was my coach at Alabama, linebacker coach. And I told him before the game, and jokingly, I said, Pat, all those knots you put on my head, my team's going to repay you tomorrow for a laugh. But one of the players was Rod Bernstein. We moved him from running back to tight end, and that was a big breakout game for Rod. His playing, meaning performance, Kevin Murray's performance, but certainly the defense performance was huge. Give Bo Jackson 4 times inside the 4-yard line, and they don't make a down. That's saying something.
What was that first year implementing the 12-man kickoff team like? Did you have a lot of guys come out and try out? Like, was it an overwhelming response?
First response, we ran an ad, no experience required, and there were 252, 2 females, and signed up for the first meeting, and then we whittled that down to 40, and would have 40 come out for spring. So when you really analyze it and understand, you had 40 bodies extra for spring practice. So you wasn't putting one-on-one to do all the drills. That didn't mean we didn't go one-on-one, but all the drills to get to a scrimmage or get to a full 7-on-7 or inside drill, they were the players that actually took the hits. And then we would whittle that down to 20 for the fall.
Interesting. And one of your 12-man kickoff team players, David Coolidge, he was named the 2025 recipient of the E. King Gill Award. And for those who are listening and aren't familiar, the E. King Gill Award is presented annually by the 12-man Foundation to a person or a couple who has been an influential investor and ambassador for Texas A&M athletics. So, Coach, you were there when David was surprised with the award. Did you have a sense, I'm sure, of immense pride when he earned that award?
Yes. David has done an awful lot and done a lot of things people really don't know. It's not the money that he's given. It's other items and other things that he has done for A&M. So the 12th man really means I'm standing tall to help in any way needed.
And I'm sure you saw those characteristics and those traits even in, your 12-man kickoff team players, right?
If you take that group and you look at the amount of money they have given back, and I'm not talking about athletics. There's quite a bit of money that's been given back. But to the School of Business, to the school at May School, to the School of Engineering, and certainly the athletic department, it's quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And then they started a foundation, and they have given, like, I don't know the exact, but it's like $250,000, $270,000 in scholarships money to students. In the first group, there was one young man that said, it was for the second semester, and the young man said, I was going home. I didn't have money to finish. So,
they're making a great impact.
Yes.
Tremendous impact, yes.
And the group does more. I mean, they go to the hospitals. They're the only group that MDA has invited to come in and be with their kids.
Really?
They do it every year.
Wow.
Do Scottish Rite.
And you've gone on a lot of those trips as well.
Yes. Yeah. And Scottish Rite in Dallas. Matter of fact, we were the first team ever to start going to the hospitals with, the teams.
Really?
Yeah.
Like when you were a coach, y'all would go?
Yeah.
Really?
Anytime we went to Dallas, we went to the Scottish Rite. We would go to Houston. We would go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I learned more about players from watching how they reacted to the kids, especially the handicapped kids.
Mm-hmm. Yep. In those situations, that's when you can really see, the character of an individual. Yep.
And believe it or not, the meanest, the tough, and I'm not saying off the field, I'm talking about on the field, the meanest, the toughest, the players on the field were the best in the hospitals because they had compassion.
They were probably the sweetest and the most genuine, right?
But they wasn't on the fields. Ray Childress was very nice too, but not on
not on the football field.
No.
Staying on that topic of support really quick, Coach, you've lived a great life of support and you've remained committed to visiting children's hospitals and you've done other charitable work. What drives that service mindset for yourself?
Well, going back, Coach Bryant did an awful lot that no one ever knew. So and Coach Stallings was one of the coaches. He coached defense and linebackers. But then seeing the kids themselves and understanding that it took me when I have no idea, in 1977 is when I first started taking players to the hospitals. I have no idea why I did it. No one asked personally. I just took some kids. And then there was a kid 7 years old that had tubes everywhere. And so I invited him to be our guest. We were opening up with Notre Dame, national TV, to be our guest. And very excited. A month later, or maybe two, I get a letter from his nurse that how excited he and the kids were, but unexpected things happened in life. He passed away. Mm. So, I went into the bathroom, like a little kid.
Just lost it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I took that summer and visited from Philly to Kansas to Florida to Louisiana, Texas, Washington, and Hawaii in Scottish Rite Children's Hospitals. And that's when I really started, making sure that was part of my MO.
Just staying on the topic of support, we're talking about, impacting communities and nonprofits and charitable work. And from a resource and facilities perspective here at Texas A&M, can you talk about the level of support that has been poured back into Texas A&M athletics, just the level of support that you've witnessed?
There's no one that has given like the Aggies have given. And when you see this stadium or when you see other facilities, you understand that they do not get built just by the university. The funds have to come in from somewhere, and they're coming in from former students. So when you really understand that, and then now with the NIL, that it's ever revolving door because it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because if you want to compete, then you have to make that commitment.
Mm-hmm. Going back to what you brought up actually at the beginning of this whole conversation, I want to circle back to it, but Coach, how do you think the opportunity of an athletic scholarship transforms the lives of student athletes today?
It is more important than what our media puts out. Right now, we're just in the phase, you're a player, you're not a student, but you are a student. When I was a head coach of wherever, I went and got the faculty or members of the faculty to be in charge of our academics. They were academic. We had a board. Back then, you had to qualify. And all the kids that, especially that were borderline or at Pittsburgh, for example, did not meet the standards to come in to Pittsburgh, or the same kids' standards to come into A&M, they made the decision on the player. They would look at their transcripts. They would interview the player when they came for a visit, and they would say yes or no. And everyone they said yes with graduated, because that taught me they were a lot smarter than I am when analyzing kids' academic success.
Mm-hmm.
Had a young man at Pittsburgh wanted to be an engineer. The dean of engineering school was one of the people on the committee. He interviewed the player, but because of his test score, he did not get accepted to engineering. A week before school started, the dean calls me and he said, "Jackie, I don't see Bill's name on our engineering freshman entry." I said, "Well, they turned him down." He changed that real quick. And
oh, wow.
So in 4 years, had his engineering degree and had a career as an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
There was a great player, Sammy O'Brien. He's no longer with us, but great player. And Sammy had a LD, and Einstein was LD. He had dyslexia. So it doesn't have anything to do with your intelligence. But anyway, Sammy came here, graduated in 4 years with his engineering degree, and that's what he spent his life doing.
Yeah, and I think, especially here at Texas A&M, I think our athletic programs, they do a good job of re-emphasizing, that our athletes are student athletes, and they really want them to succeed not only in competition, but also in the classroom.
Well, also the students themselves. But there's so many avenues here at Texas A&M that can help so many kids in different ways. And intelligence is not measured by what you score on a test score. And it's measured by other ways. There's a lot of very successful people that didn't make all A's.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. When you look back on your life and reflect, how pivotal do you think that opportunity to play college ball was in determining the course of your life?
Unreal. Just having the opportunity to go and play. Because the teams that win, naturally, they are the teams that are noted, recognized, but also there's a correlation and connection. If a team in the 80s and in 90s, those are the players that actually have given more back to A&M than any other group. And there's a reason for that, because A&M has done so much for them. I'll take Dat Wynn. Dat was a great player, but by him having that opportunity, I think he has 2 or 3 Chick-fil-A stores and doing really well.
Yes, we had Dat Wynn on this very podcast. So for those of you listening, if y'all haven't listened to that episode, I highly encourage it, because Dat's story is just remarkable. And like you said, that athletic scholarship he received, the opportunity opened the door to an incredible career.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we think athletes are babied, but when you really analyze, and if you want to put a pencil to it, how many hours they are actually working. When you're talking about practice, when you're talking about meetings, you only have 24 hours in a day.
And then there's school. Yep.
If you back it out, let's say, that 7-8 hours of sleep, now you're down to 16. Then you take that, 4 to 6 hours of class. Now you're down to 10 or 12. Then let's take their meal times, at least 2, maybe a little more, and then you throw in practice. There's not many hours left in the day for an athlete to be a normal student.
Right. What does answering the call of support, just like E. King Gill, mean to you, and why do you think it's important to answer that call for support?
Well, you can't compete today without it. And I'll say this in a very respectful way. Who's the president of Notre Dame? Who's the president of Alabama? Who's the president of Ohio State? Who are the coaches? So there's a balance, but also there is an understanding that if you are good, and it takes support to be good, then it brings up everybody. And if you're a player on a great football team, when you're out, you're being recognized as a player on that great football team. So it's not disrespectful. It's just the way that we live and have lived for years. You know, you can go all the way back to Army and Navy when Doc Blanchard was a great player for Army.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what you just said there honestly reminds me of the statement that many have made, but that athletics is, the front porch almost of a university. And when athletic teams do well, it definitely gets national attention, recognition, and it points back to the university at its core.
It takes 7 things to win. You have to have the administration that gives you the support to win. And that includes here the Board of Regents, the president, the chancellor, and it also includes the 12th Man Foundation and the former students. But you also have to have the faculty, because if the faculty feel you're abusing the players academically, they're not going to help you. And then it also the players and the students. The students are very, very important. Mm-hmm. The former students, certainly the coaches, but one of the most important is the media, and especially today with the social media. Now let's take different teams. You take A&M, what the media respect they have in the coverage, and let's take Florida. Let's take LSU. It's all negative. So it's a combination of everything. And
a lot of different components. Yep.
Yes. And the students that are on campus, they're very proud to be able to watch their team and wear that A&M swag wherever they go.
Mm-hmm. And how do you personally feel about the football program right now and the tremendous success that Aggie football has had, and Mike Elko, the staff, the culture they've implemented? How do you feel about all of it?
It takes so many components. In athletics, you certainly have the AD, you have the head coach, but you also have the support, which is the 12th Man Foundation. And one cannot do it by itself.
Absolutely. Coach Jackie Sherrill on Answering the Call podcast. Coach Sherrill, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Answering the Call. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and follow us on your podcast streaming platform of choice so you can be the first to know when a new episode drops. As always, a big thank you to our incredible podcast producer, Megan Rohde, to 12th Man Productions, and Texas A&M Athletics NIL Department. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to every donor and season ticket holder for always answering the call through loyal support of Texas A&M Athletics and our student athletes. We'll be back soon with more content. Thanks, and gig 'em.